Well, hello Ninthers, and a very good morning, very good afternoon, and a very good evening based on the time in which you'll be watching this video. I'm hoping you all are doing well, doing fine, along with members of your family. Please stay safe, stay home, take all the necessary precautions, and well, do not panic as much. Now, we were done with the chapter which dealt with weathering, soil formation. Let us now move over to the next chapter, that is the oceans. Now, when we talk of the oceans, the first thing that comes to our mind is water. And by water, there's a lot of water which we find on the earth. This is the world map, and you see the green color marks the water over here, and it may be safe to say that water is the most dominant feature which is there on our planet, which is also known as the blue planet. Earth is called the blue planet because of the presence of water and because it appears blue, nearly blue, from space. Now, why there is so much water, but this water, all of it which makes up, or all the water which is there on the earth's surface, be it in the form of glacier, be it in the form of ice, be it the underground water, be it rivers, oceans, seas, lakes, ponds, streams, whatever they are, all of it together makes up the hydrosphere. We have the different spheres. The atmosphere is the sphere which is there, or which is having the air component in it. We have the biosphere where we live. We have the lithosphere, that is the earth, or that is the surface of the earth, and we have the hydrosphere. All of together makes it possible for us to habitate this earth. The hydrosphere which we are talking about, well, it was what we see here today, or this world map which we are seeing today, is or was not like this all the time, or throughout the history of the earth. This wasn't the way the earth was designed. Well, we had talked about plate tectonics, and well, these are the plates. There are various plates on the Earth's surface, and all these plates are continually, they are moving, they are colliding with each other, they are moving away from each other. So there are so many plates, so many plate boundaries, and there are so many interactions which are happening amongst the plates. Plates are moving forward, moving away from each other, coming towards each other. All of this is happening even now as we are speaking. And millions of years ago, this was something which the earth looked like. We had a supercontinent, and this supercontinent, the Pangaea, we had it, and after that we had the supercontinent, and there was the ocean. There was only one continent, which was the Pangaea, and there was the ocean. The whole, all of the water bodies were connected together. Even today, all the water bodies are connected together. If we look over here, we'll find that all of these water bodies are meeting in the southern region of the earth, the southern part of the earth. But previously, millions of years ago, what we had was a supercontinent and the ocean, or all of the water bodies together. All of the water bodies together, it was called, this ocean was called the Panthalassa. And this Panthalassa ocean was there, and the continent, supercontinent, was the Pangaea. Gradually, due to the plate tectonics, one more thing to be kept in mind is that not only once was all, or were all the continents together. It is said that, or scientists have now found out that nearly as many as 7 times there was an instance on the earth where the continents had come together and then they drifted apart. Now we are once again, the continents are drifted apart this way. Someday, millions of years later, what will happen is that all these continents will again come together, and all the continents will again form a supercontinent, and there will be only one ocean, which will be a super ocean. Now, when we talk of this Panthalassa, when we are talking of the Pangaea, what started happening was that gradually the different plates, they started moving away from each other, and as the plates started moving from away from each other, continents started being formed, and we had something like this. And it was 100 million years ago. After that, we had this, and then we had this, the present day. So this was how the earth, or this is how the earth which we see today has, or the earth which we are seeing today, this is how it was designed previously, and this is how it shaped itself over millions of years. Now when we are talking of the ocean, Land and ocean on the earth is not equally distributed, as we just talked about in the starting of this video. There is a lot more ocean than there is land, and it is nearly 71% of the earth's surface is covered with water, or covered with oceans, or covered with water bodies, and the remaining 29% is made up of the land. So you can understand that there is more of water on the surface, more of water and less of land. Going down underneath the surface, it has to be more of land, more of rocks, more of soil. But above the surface, it is more of water, less of land. Now, when we are talking of the oceans, what we have to also keep in mind is that there are distinctive features of the oceans. Now, there are a few main oceans. We have the Pacific Ocean, then we have the Atlantic Ocean, then we have the Indian Ocean, we have the Arctic Ocean over here, and then we have the Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean is the sum total, or all the water from all the ocean, they are meeting together. This is the Southern Ocean. All the oceans are connected to each other. That is to be kept in mind, and it is very important because the oceans being connected to each other happens, or this causes the ocean currents to move from one place to another. This causes, or this helps us, enables the ships, or enables the different cargo vessels to move from one continent to other. This is possible only when all the oceans are connected together. Now, there are a few things which we should keep in mind when we look at the distribution of land and water on the globe. First thing, what is an antipodal thing, or what is an antipode? When we talk of an antipode, it means that two places on the earth which are opposite to each other, diametrically opposite to each other. Suppose this over here is a sphere, and if one place is over here, the other place is over here. So these two places are called antipodal, or these are antipodal to each other. Why? Because these two places can be connected with an axis, straight line, and these are diametrically opposite to each other. They are on two different sides of the diameter. So this is what is known as an antipode or antipodal arrangement. So there are antipodal arrangements on the earth also. One very important thing, this over here is the Arctic Ocean, and this over here, or the North Pole as you may say, and this over here is the Antarctic Ocean, or this is Antarctica, and this is the South Pole. If you see, this is the Arctic Ocean, this North Pole. Although the Arctic Ocean is made up of ice, is solid, but then if the water over there melts, or the ice over there melts, what we will be finding over there is that there is no land underneath. So the Arctic Ocean is this part, the northern pole, the North Pole is just water, frozen water, but the South Pole is made up of solid land mass, solid land, which we know, or it is a continent, that is the continent of Antarctica. Now, there is this one distinctive feature. Most of the parts, or most of the oceans on the Earth's surface, they are antipodal to land masses. So what we find is that on the opposite side of one ocean, there is more or less, or there is most of the times, a big land mass. Over here we have the Arctic Ocean, one example I'm giving you all. Over here we have the Arctic Ocean, that is on the North Pole, and diametrically opposite we have the South Pole, and in the South Pole we have a land mass. So most of it is so, it may not be true always, but most of the times it is such that the oceans, as we, or if you can find it in a globe if you have it, the oceans are most of the times diametrically opposite to large land masses. You understood with the help of, or with the example of this North Pole and the South Pole thing. Antipode, these are what this is what is called antipode. Next, we have to keep in mind, if we look at the continents, you can see that the continents are nearly triangular in shape. You can see over here Northern America, this is a triangle over here. These are all inverted triangles. Over here also you'll find a triangle. Over Africa, a triangle. Eurasia, the continent of Europe and Asia together, you'll find that this is the base of the triangle, and over here we have the apex of the triangle. Australia, one difference is there, although in the book it is mentioned that Australia is not triangular. It is also roughly triangular. It is just that unlike the other continents which have their base on the northern side, Australia has the base on the southern side, and then it is narrowing towards the north. So the continents, if you see, they are roughly triangular in shape, inverted triangles. And alongside that, when the continents are, one more thing to be kept in mind, if you look at the continents very carefully, if you just look at Brazil, this is called the shoulder of Brazil. So if you look at Brazil and if you look at South Africa over here, you will find that if Brazil or if this continent was to move forward and was to join with Africa, what would happen is that this shoulder part of Brazil will easily fit into this gap or this curve over here in Africa. So this tells us one thing, that maybe once upon a time all these were together. If you look at this part and this part, you will find that they will join together, and there will be a complete, it will be like a jigsaw puzzle. And that is what gave the scientists the first time the possibility that, or the scientists understood that there may have been a time sometime in the earth's future, or sorry, in the earth's past, that the continents were together and they came apart due to the drifting of the continents or the drifting of the continental plates. Next thing, if you see similarly, as the continents are triangular, the oceans are also triangular, but that the oceans are having their base in the southern part, and they are their apex is on the northern part. It may not be that proper or that clear in the map, but it can be understood if we look at the Indian Ocean part. The Indian Ocean, the base, it is wider at the southern part and it gradually narrows towards the north. So over here also the oceans are also triangular in shape, but then they are inverted or in the opposite direction of that of the continents. Next, one thing we have to keep in mind is that in the northern hemisphere, the equator passing, so we have the equator over here. So the northern hemisphere is having nearly half of, or 50 percentage of land and ocean. But the southern hemisphere, if we look, southern hemisphere is more dominated by the oceans than by the land. Now this is not something, this does not have a scientific or a geographical reason behind it. This is just to be kept in mind, or some distinctive feature over here which we see. The oceans is, or the in the southern hemisphere we have more of ocean, less of land. In the northern hemisphere we have nearly equal parts or equal proportion of land and ocean. Next thing to be kept in mind, this part, this is the southern ocean part. The southern ocean is the sum total of the water coming from all the oceans. Now the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, even the Arctic Ocean. Why? Because on the other side we have to keep in mind that the earth is a sphere, and this Arctic Ocean is to be, or this Arctic Ocean is also connected with all the other oceans, and all the waters, they meet together over here in the southern ocean part. Next thing which we should keep in mind over here is that, well, oceans have a lot of something which is called oceanography. What is oceanography? Now when we talk of oceanography, it is nothing but the study of oceanic phenomena, or the different things, or the different features, different other things which take part in the ocean, or which takes place in the ocean. When we are talking of the oceans, there are so many things which are happening, so many things which the ocean, or by which the oceans are regulating so much of the earth's temperature. The oceans are causing so much, or there are so many phenomena happening in the ocean. There are so many high pressure belts, low pressure belts, the air movements being directed by the oceanic temperature. All of these things, study of all of these things is called oceanography. Now oceans are important, and when we talk of the importance of the oceans, the first thing is that the oceans provide, or the oceans are, or ocean is home for so many different flora and fauna, so many different species of plants and animals. And it is said that the oceanic biosphere, or the oceanic flora and the fauna, is much more diverse than what is found on the land. Many more, or many more varieties of plants and animals are to be found in the ocean than it is found on the earth's surface. And most of the parts of the oceans are yet to be explored. The deeper parts of the oceans have not yet been explored as such. Next thing, when we talk of the oceans provide us with the moisture. The moisture which is going up, evaporation, Next very important thing is that when we talk of the oceans as they are the waves, when the waves they are hitting on the shore, when the waves they fall on or crash on the shore, small droplets of the ocean water, small droplets are released into the atmosphere. They are so small, they are so light that they do not fall down. They remain suspended in the atmosphere as aerosols. These are called aerosols. And the small droplet of the ocean water will also be containing salt. As the water of that droplet evaporates, the salt stays in the atmosphere. This salt is very important. These are hygroscopic particles. What this salt helps in is that this is the most important source of aerosol in the atmosphere, which helps the water droplets, when rain is being formed, those water droplets to bind it together with this salt and then form a larger drop to fall down as rain. uh, I guess this was not as clear to you all, or I could not make it as clear to you all. If you did understand this aerosol part and this why this is being caused, or that why this is being held by the waves which is breaking on the Earth's surface, if you understood, well and good. If you do not understand, please ask me, or if you do want to understand, please ask me. I'll give you a detailed explanation in the comment section if you do have any problem in this. Next, when we are talking of the other important effect or other important importance of the ocean, very important, the oceans regulate the Earth's atmosphere and the Earth's temperature. The oceans, we know that water has a high specific heat capacity. So water requires a lot of time to heat up, and also water requires a lot of time to cool down. Now when we are talking of so much, when there is so much water over here, what happens is that the sun's energy heats up the oceans. Where the sun's energy is or where some parts of the oceans they are facing the sun's energy or facing the direct rays of the sun a lot, these belts, the equatorial belts, they are hotter. The upper portions are not that hot, these are colder areas. What happens is that these or due these areas which are hot and these areas which are cold, what actually happens is that oceans, with the help of the ocean's current, they help in transporting the extra heat from these areas to the colder areas, and the colder or the cold waters from these areas, the northern or the southern areas, they move towards the equatorial areas, thus balancing the, or thus keeping a balance of the Earth's atmosphere or the Earth's climate. If it would not have been so, what would have happened is that these areas would have been completely cold without any kind of heat or without any source of rain, or these areas would have been frozen and these areas would have been very very hot. What actually happens is that ocean currents, what are actually ocean currents? Let me just explain. Ocean currents is nothing but, you see, wind is blowing over the oceans. There is wind blowing over the oceans, and when the wind is blowing, winds, anything which is moving has kinetic energy. The wind is also having kinetic energy. When the wind is blowing over the ocean, what the wind is doing is that it is transferring some part of it, of its kinetic energy, to the ocean water. What is happening is that as the wind is moving over the surface of the ocean, it transfers some of its kinetic energy. Suppose this is the wind, it is transferring some, and this is the ocean, it is brushing against the ocean's surface and it is transferring some of its kinetic energy to the ocean water. And then what happens is that the ocean water also starts moving. Now when the water is moving from these areas, the hotter parts, this is a hotter part. So when the water is moving from this area to this area, so warm currents are moving from these areas. And warm currents, what does it actually mean is that it is taking warm water from these areas to the upper regions or to the colder regions. And similarly, as you may think that then it may cause imbalance in the amount of water in the ocean. No, as warm water is moving from the upper part, cold water is moving from the lower part or through the ocean bed, and it is coming towards the equatorial parts. So there is a oceanic circulation. So this oceanic circulation, these are called gyres actually. So there is this oceanic circulation which is happening. The oceanic currents are moving from the hotter areas to colder areas and the colder areas to the hotter areas, bringing much needed warmth to these colder areas, and also the cool water is moving from these areas to the equatorial areas. So this is one of the most important effect or one of the most important function which the oceans have. Next thing, the oceans, they are providing routes, sea routes for transportation. Now, although air travel is very convenient, very fast, very well, it is more comfortable. But what happens is that through air travel, the aeroplanes cannot transport huge amounts or huge weights or huge masses of goods. What happens is that for these things we do require the ships and the container vessels, and they move, the ocean provides the routes. So anything which is being produced over here in the United States is coming through these oceanic waters to India, to Australia, moving towards China. So the oceans are keeping all of us connected. Next, when we talk of minerals, the oceans are storehouses of minerals, be it natural gas, be it oil, be it so many other minerals. There are so many places in which, or so many ways by which we are trying to take out minerals from the ocean bed, but then we should try to do it in a more sustainable manner so as to not harm the ocean bed, so as to not harm the ecosystem. The ocean is also a reservoir of food. So many different types or so many varieties of seafood which we get or which we derive from the oceans, and these seafoods are actually needed by the body and by so many different people. So this is another importance of the oceans. So I guess we are done with the importance of the oceans and the general overview of the oceans. In the next video, we'll be talking about the four most important oceans and their features. Till then, I'll hope, if you have any problem, please comment in the comment section so that I can get back to you. And take care, stay safe, and stay happy. Thank you.